So Scott Ritter is a propagandist. He is a American former U.S. Marine intelligence officer who the Russians love waving around because he says what the Russians want him to say. I'm not saying that they give him a list and he just goes through that, but he's setting the conditions for the talking points for tomorrow after the meeting with Putin and Trump. Okay, let's just listen to what he has to say. I selected this 15-minute clip, and in this clip, you'll see talking point after talking point. Every time he says one, I'll either stop or I'll hold up a yellow card, and we'll just walk our way through this. Let's listen to this.
To be proud of this.
And I'm going to say this again, and I know for those of you watching us, you've heard me say this before, but it's only because I was flabbergasted when I came to this place. As I've gotten to know Moscow in the last 2 or 3 months that I've been here, I have found that it's a place with very little to no crime, little to no homelessness, little to no drug addiction, little to no immigration issues, and one of the most unified places where there's a real sense of brotherhood that I've ever experienced.
See the rest of Russia first, because when I was in Minsk, I found that it was very low crime as well, because the government controlled all the crime.
Experienced in my entire life. And I only say that not to criticize my country, because I adore my country. And as an immigrant to my country, you can only imagine how much I have to be appreciative for the opportunities that I was given it. But those things that I just named a little while ago, they don't exist in our country today. They don't.
No, we have work to do.
And those are problems that we've got to solve.
And the thing about it is, we can't solve those problems if we're diverting trillions of dollars into
$300 billion for Ukraine.
$300 billion for Ukraine. Where is he getting those nutty numbers? That's not reality at all.
Ukraine's lost the war. We can get into
that. Ukraine's lost the war.
But yeah, I don't mean forget, because so much sacrifice has been made, et cetera. But that's a decided issue.
Yeah.
No matter what.
It's a fait accompli, right? It's already done. Move on.
Trump thinks.
Yeah.
But we have a New START treaty that expires on February 4th of next year. And if that expires and it's not extended, we're into a new arms race.
Okay, and this is one of the things that we have to be careful about, because Putin's going to want to talk about things like that, to talk about cooperation with the United States moving forward, where Trump needs to stay on top of ceasefire in Ukraine, ceasefire in Ukraine, ceasefire in Ukraine.
Russia's got the lead. They've built all these new weapons, Oreshnik and others. Ryabkov just came out and said, yeah, we got more that we haven't told you about.
Yeah.
They've got the Sarmat, they got Avangard, they've got this new Skyfall system. What do we have? Old Minuteman III, aging Tridents, and B-52 bombers.
Out of Patriots.
Really? B-52 bombers is the best you can come up with? I can come up with more than that.
Yeah, we're out of Patriots. But the point is, we're going to have to spend, in order to compete, trillions of dollars. On top of that, Donald Trump speaking of building this Golden Dome missile defense shield. Somebody needs to educate him on the history of arms control. Yeah. Missile defense doesn't work. Right. Will never work. That's why we signed the anti-ballistic.
Well, I mean, Iron Dome has been a really good thing for Israel, but it's going to be a trickier thing with something the size of the U.S.
Missile Treaty, 1972, right here. Richard Nixon, Brezhnev, they signed it. You know Ray McGovern, our good friend, the CIA analyst? Yeah. Ray McGovern was here as part of the CIA arms control team.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ray was here in Moscow making history. But the point is, we withdrew from that treaty. The INF treaty that I was part of that got rid of the dangerous intermediate range missiles, we withdrew. Donald Trump withdrew from that treaty. And now the last remaining arms control treaty of note, New START, is about to expire.
That's great.
And that's something that Putin's going to seize on and want to talk about as, hey, we have to cooperate on these things moving forward. Okay, in just a moment, he's going to pivot. And when he pivots, you're going to see this thing go up quite a bit.
We want to take care of homelessness, education problems, infrastructure. Imagine if we could divert trillions of dollars over the course of 10 years into those projects. What a great country the United States of America be. Look,
what a safer world we would have.
We definitely would have it.
Talking point.
I think we're in a transition period. I'm very optimistic about America. I love the American people. I am the American people. I wake up every morning knowing what I'm capable of doing, what my core values are, what my core beliefs are, and I know that there's hundreds of millions of Americans that share those values. And we're going to win. It's a struggle, though. It's a struggle, and if we make life difficult by making bad relations with Russia, we just make it impossible for us to
talking point
at home. This is why peace with Russia is so important.
And here's where we are right now. And now I'm going to give you a little bit of the bad news. As our president sits down with the president of Russia tomorrow in Alaska, these are the kind of questions that he is being asked at the news conference. This is Mr. Trump just yesterday fielding questions at the Kennedy Center from reporters. And look at one of the first questions he's asked, and look at the tone with which this question is phrased.
It was a good question.
Take this if you could, Gene.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the
There-
consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences, yes.
What will be the consequences for Mr. Putin if he doesn't agree to what you tell him to do? I mean, what kind of imbecilic question is that from a reporter? And
It's actually a great question for a reporter. That's exactly what a reporter should be asking President Trump, given what Trump is trying to accomplish.
for those of you who have not lived in the United States, that's unfortunately what the media in the United States has kind of turned into. And I said this to Scott a little while ago, and I don't know if he disagrees with me. I'm a member of the media. I worked at CNN, I worked at Fox, I worked at NBC, I worked at all those places. I would not be surprised if that reporter was handed that question by an insider or some kind of neocon, because he wanted him to ask it so the president could give him that answer.
Look, we're in the state of
Okay, but if you aren't in Russia, if you're in the United States, the reporters can ask adversarial questions, and that's what they're supposed to be doing.
First of all, I agree with you. I think that was a planted question, and I think President Trump had a scripted answer. Why is he saying that?
Yeah.
You know, I've been here for a couple of days, and I've asked Russian officials and Russian experts, and that same question. They're not worried about that, because what they say is, and I agree with them, that there will be a meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin, and that meeting will be held with the utmost mutual respect.
Yep.
President Trump knows that you can't bully President Putin, and plus, it's just, if you want the meeting to fail, that's how you make it fail. I believe the Russians are looking at this and realizing, see, Vladimir Putin's been the president of Russia for 25 years, or a president, prime minister, but a leader for 25 years. And the Russian people know who he is. He just had an election last March, not last March, but the March prior, which he won with overwhelming votes.
You can do that when you spend $2 billion on a rigged election.
Has the support of the Russian people. He has the support of the Russian
Russian
government.
people,
He doesn't have to look behind him.
Okay, let me skip
focus on
ahead
going
here
forward.
to this.
Donald Trump.
Just on the other side of Zelensky talking, they're going to say this, and this is crazy stuff.
I mean, just facts alone. Forget anything else. Whether you hate Putin, love Trump, love Zelensky, hate Zelensky. Take all of that out of your mind right now and just look at this picture. The man from a country where people are on the streets protesting about all the corruption that is going on in his country.
Nope, they're not protesting that. They're not protesting him. They're not protesting corruption. They're protesting that they made a law that could have lent itself to more corruption, and they wanted it to not be. Like, that's a very different picture.
The man from a country where people are being snatched off the streets because they really don't want to fight. The man.
Wait a minute. Zelensky's not from Russia, is he? Because that's what they're doing in Russia. See what I did there?
From a country where the polls show 60% of people don't like him and want the war to end.
That's not what the polls show. Now, the polls do show that they want the war to end, but they don't want it to end on Putin's terms by any stretch of the imagination, and they'd rather fight. So it depends on how you interpret the polls. They keep twisting it. And they also did this weird mirroring effect where whatever they're doing or is what they blame the other side of doing. It's fascinating to watch.
Criticizing a country where all of those things are the converse. I mean, not for nothing.
Criticizing Russia where all those things are the converse. Not at all. Not at all. It's bizarre. Okay, hold on. We're about to get to this place where Scott Ritter is now going to say some crazy stuff to set the table for what's about to happen.
Dude, but those are the facts right now.
I think it was an episode of Seinfeld where it was opposite. Everything was the opposite. All right. So Zelensky lives in the opposite world, meaning that whatever he says, the exact opposite is the case.
And they're talking about it as if they're not doing it. It's the most bizarre thing that I've ever seen.
You know, he's always been a tool of the West. You know, from the very
Okay,
beginning.
another talking point. Zelensky's just a tool of the West.
The whole way that Zelensky came into power was literally as a tool of MI6. You know, working in cahoots with Kolomovsky and Ukrainian oligarchs and all that.
That's another talking point. Zelensky is just a tool of Western intelligence, MI6 in this case, and working with certain oligarchs in order to, yeah.
I mean, they created a TV program, Servant of the People, where he played a simple man being the president to implant in the minds of the Ukrainian people the possibility of him being president.
Wow. I need a red card.
Think about that. Well, and it became a reality.
It became a reality. He campaigned on a program of peace, but as soon as he became president, he was promoting war.
No. He tried to work out agreements with Putin again and again and again, and Putin violated it. And then it wasn't until February of 2022 that Putin actually violated it in a huge way with the full-scale war.
Western masters told him to do.
His Western masters were caught off guard. His Western masters offered him a ride out. Remember, I need ammunition, not a ride. Like that was a thing. Like because they thought that he had to flee, and he didn't.
Reading from a script. The British are writing the script. The British are, sadly, some of the worst enemies of Russia one can imagine.
Yeah.
They are pushing war. But the sad thing is, the Brits, they're not the ones dying. It's the Ukrainians that are
fighting
dying.
To the last
They've allowed
Ukrainian.
themselves to become a proxy, a tool.
A proxy.
A nation, Great Britain, and allies in Europe, unfortunately previously backed by the United States.
We're fighting all of NATO.
Use Ukraine as a tool to strategically defeat Russia. Sanctions were supposed to strangle the economy. It didn't work. By
Sanctions are working.
The economy, these people here, instead of walking these streets in peace, we're supposed to come together in a Maidan-like moment. They call it the
They're trying to
Maidan.
overthrow Putin.
They're supposed to assemble here to bring down the government of Vladimir Putin, which was all about. We hate Putin because he's rebuilt Russia.
Yeah.
We hate Putin.
They're jealous of us. Okay, I've had about as much as I can stand. Tell me about you, how you are. Do you see how they're laying all these talking points in just a simple little narrative? Just a simple little conversation, but it was like one thing after another after another. I don't know if you counted how many cards. Like if you go back and count them, I'm curious how many times I lifted it. But yeah, that's where they are right now. Okay, so tell me what you thought about what you saw here, because this kind of thing is meaningful. It'll get carried in papers and then rebroadcast and in print and in that sort of thing. And they know what they're doing with this. All right. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.